So there's a new news story that came out this morning about AOC. I'm going to read it, give my reaction to it, and then we'll just kind of go from there. It's called Some Democrats' Full Idea of Primary Challenge for Ocasio-Cortez. And I'm going to begin reading the text and just kind of reacting. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D, New York, has infuriated colleagues by aligning with the progressive outside group that's threatening to primary entrenched Democrats. Now, some of these lawmakers are turning the tables on her and are discussing recruiting a primary challenger to run against the social media sensation. Isn't it ironic that they get pissed when members of their own party target each other and then they respond by targeting members of their own party for targeting each other? At least one House Democrat has been privately urging members of the New York delegation to recruit a local politician from the Bronx of Queens to challenge Ocasio-Cortez. What I recommend to the New York delegation is that you find her a primary challenge and make her a one-term congressperson, Democratic lawmaker who requested anonymity told the Hill. You've got numerous council people and state legislators who've been waiting 20 years for that seat. I'm sure they can find numerous people who want that seat in that district. Theoretically, if they've been waiting 20 years, there was nothing stopping them. They could have mounted the primary challenge against Crowley, but I guess that makes too much sense. The New York delegation has eyed Ocasio-Cortez with skepticism ever since last summer when the 29-year-old self-described Democratic Socialist shocked the political world and defeated then Representative Joe Crowley, D. New York, in what many thought would be a sleepy primary race. Crowley, a Queens power broker and affable House Democratic caucus chairman, had been considered a possible future speaker. Many New York and Congressional Black Caucus lawmakers were also furious with Ocasio-Cortez after a recent political report stated that she and a grassroots group aligned with her Justice Democrats were considering backing a primary challenge to fellow New York Democrat Hakeem Jeffries. A complete shill, in my opinion. A Black Caucus member and establishment insider who succeeded Crowley as caucus chairman. Both Ocasio-Cortez and Justice Democrats have denied the report, but the group of insurgent progressives has vowed to target centrist Representative Henry Seller, D. Texas, and is eyeing other potential 2020 targets. For now, New York Democratic lawmakers are playing nice with Ocasio-Cortez and her 2.6 million Twitter followers and say no one in the Empire State delegation is currently contemplating backing a primary challenge against her. We are going to see what happens. Generally, for me, I'm giving folks the benefit of the doubt, the presumption of innocence. You might say one thing before you get in here, and then after you get to meet folks, you see what happens, how the body works, things are different. So we'll see what happens. Representative Gregory Meeks, D. New York, whose district includes parts of Queens, said in an interview, I can only tell you that the times I've spoke to her and at the time she's been at the New York delegations meetings, she's been cooperative and wants to be a team player. That's what she said. So you got to take her at her word until something changes. Meeks said Jeffries, the number 4 House Democrat, who some say could someday become Speaker, insisted none of the House colleagues have approached him to run a primary challenge against Ocasio-Cortez. In fact, the 48-year-old Jeffries said delegation members this month lobbied Democratic leadership to grant Ocasio-Cortez's request that she be appointed to the House Financial Services and the Oversight Reform Committee. I don't think that is something the New York delegation would contemplate. As you can see, we are totally united behind each other. The New York delegation sticks together, Jeffries told The Hill. He saw Ocasio-Cortez denied the news report that she was backing a challenger to him, so there was nothing to work through. I haven't seen a primary challenge candidate emerge, so I assume when she denied it, she was correct, that there was nothing to it. No potential challengers to Ocasio-Cortez have yet emerged, but one New York political insider noted that the Queens and Bronx district is home to many ambitious Poles who are close to Crowley and don't like that the political outsider took his seat. She's pissing off a lot of people and has probably made a lot of enemies. A lot of people who are furious with her are Joe's allies, including some named Crowley, said the insider, referring to Crowley's cousin, Elizabeth Crowley, a former New York City councilwoman. She is a woman and she's been moving more to the left. She would be someone interesting. Elizabeth Crowley, 41, did not return the request for comment, but she has previously said she's eyeing a bid for Queens Borough President in 2021. She lives in a neighboring Queens district. For her part, Ocasio-Cortez doesn't seem particularly worried about the primary challenge with her newfound fame. She will be a force of nature and fundraising powerhouse in the 2020 cycle. As a political newcomer in 2018, she raised an astounding $2 million last cycle and had more than 400,000 cash on hand, according to campaign finance reports. Of all people, Ocasio-Cortez would not complain if she gets a primary challenger. Her spokesman said, "We believe in primaries as an idea. We're not upset by the idea of being primary. We're not going to go out there being anti-primary, though they are good for party," said Corbin Trent, a campaign spokesman for Ocasio-Cortez and a co-founder of Justice Democrats. Let's see here. If voters in the district feel they can be better representative, that will be their choice on primary day, he continued. In the meantime, we're going to be doing our dead level best to make sure we are representing the needs and wills of our constituents. So that's enough of that article. I find it kind of comical that whenever you go and you look at any of the establishment individuals who get primaried, the running theme is that by doing this or even mounting a challenge at all, you are somehow weakening the party, you're hurting it, you're making its members unable to participate in the cycle. But suddenly when you go and you want to target a person that you don't like, it's a-okay. And there have actually been people who've tried to say that somehow when we sit here and get pissed over the idea of this, you see, I'm beginning to realize more and more I live in a paradox. So for example, when I went on Ron Paul's page and was watching the Liberty Report, there was a person in the comment section who said that AOC was being propped up by the Democrats or the mainstream ones or the ones who have been there longer as their next potential person to put in a position to run for something higher. And it was like literally just watching an internet version of the Twilight Zone in real time, because you look at this article where they're talking about getting rid of someone that they do not like, that they call having made a bunch of enemies, and know that those are members of her own party, the one that she is a member of, and then someone can still write that. So there's two different realities going on. The one of the real one, which is her being despised by the leadership of the Democrats, and obviously Republicans as well. And then the fake one where there's some conspiracy by the Democrats to put her up, which again makes no sense, because why would they get rid of a guy, Crowley, who was speculated for speaker or potentially could have that position, with someone that has had nothing in the past? And just that it's not based in reality, but there's a lot of emotional stuff going on. Whether something comes out of it or not, I'm very convinced, because she has to do something that pisses off her constituents for them to go from 2 years ago, "Oh yeah, we're all going to vote her in, woohoo," to, "Oh yeah, we're going to vote for this other person, yay." And currently, I haven't seen her backpedal on anything that she ran against Crowley for. To her credit, I think the media covers her way too much, and they pretend as if no other representatives exist, with almost this strange, overzealous obsession. Let me say hello, thank Mar, or greet him or whatever. But going back to the fact that you actually have people who, and this is kind of evident in stuff that happens here. A lot of times when I do streams, for example, very few people comment, if at all. And then this one person came in here and left a comment about how he didn't like. It's like, why are you here then? They have this obsession with her. It's strange. Just like when we would do the reading AOC comments, where we would go and look at Fox News videos and read all the stuff people were writing, and it was just person after person saying something nonsensical and really vague. I mean, if I said Pelosi is terrible, which she is, I would mention her being in favor of pretty much every single war ever, or going out of her way to fight single payer, and then getting surprised when people who are progressive, are more to the left of her, want her out of a powerful position that determines whether that legislation gets voted on at all. So I can, I can speak in general terms as well, but then delve into what pisses me off about that person. And it's not hard to do that if you just take the time to go and, research any of this stuff. But, we live in this era where it's become easier, or rather, as it's become easier to get access to information, people have become lazier. So they're not willing to, let's say, one day look up who are my two senators? What are their positions on all these issues? Do I agree with them? Do I want them to stand? They just don't care. And so she, her being propped up by the media has caused this almost celebrity atmosphere around her that has gotten to a point where random people on YouTube, as you saw earlier in the stream, who don't even regularly frequent this channel at all, will just see her name in the uh, stream title and just come and click, because there's like, it's literally just this fixation that these people have for her. And it's always weird to me because I never really covered, Trump to any extent until he became president. You were kind of forced to talk about him. So when I see all of this focus for a member of the House, which traditionally they only get maybe 2, 3, 4 stories about them a year, it feels very strange to just see that paradox of, year after year, barely hearing anything about any members of the House. And then this one gets in office. Now the media is covering her day after day, minute by minute. It's insane. But it really goes back to how messed up stuff is at this point. Um, to kind of go back to the point of the Democrats eating them, just basically dooming themselves. They are against her because she doesn't subscribe to monolithic thought. So in their little fantasy world, they think primary challenges are the end all be all, and oh my God, they're really retaliating against me. Where? But the one good thing about all of that money that they, pour into these elections, or the millions of dollars that they would give to someone who runs against her, is it can't buy votes. You can have all the little stupid flashy ads about, I am not like this person because I didn't vote for this, or I believe in, insert platitude here. And it won't change anything because people are still, if they feel an attachment to the politician you're running against, going to vote for that person. That's why when I watched, for example, O'Rourke's campaign against Cruz, and they would talk about him going to every district, I thought that was insane, because you're going to get maybe 2, 3 Republicans to switch over, itty bitty small number, but a majority of members of both parties support the member of their party that becomes the nominee, or just members of their party in general. That's why you've seen Trump continue to have a, over, I think, 90% approval rating with Republicans, for all of the hatred and contempt that he's brewed from, liberals and moderates as well. That main group always sticks by him, no matter what, for the most part. So basically, what I'm saying here is that when you have a base and that group is loyal to that particular politician, they're not going to suddenly turn on them because you come at them with all this money and all of these platitudes about party unity and the rest of that nonsense. But unfortunately, we don't live in the era of critical thinking, so that's been allowed to continue. Um, as far as the involvement of Jeffries, or rather her involvement in trying to get him out of there, I welcome it. Jeffries is a complete another prick that spread. We want to talk about InfoWars being conspiracy theories. Jeffries promoted the idea that Sanders was bought out by the NRA when he was literally backing the most corrupt woman to ever run for president in U.S. history. Jesus Christ! If you put down a list of her donors, you might have a several pages long spreadsheet. But he was able to back someone like that, and it was all done on this idea that we can't have any primary challenges to the person the party anoints as their dear leader. And one of the funny things is that whenever a party gets behind a politician, without reluctance, of course, it usually spells doom for that politician. So, for example, in 2000, when Gore was running for president, didn't get a primary challenge, and the whole party was unified again around him being the nominee, you saw him just barely lose the election, but he still lost. Same thing with Hillary. People try to say that Sanders messed her up, but you still got more votes than Trump, and you still couldn't pull it off. You still couldn't hit the right places. So, it's all this thing of just trying to put blame on the other people involved, as you saw with their disdain for Ocasio-Cortez. Rather than adopting positions that people actually like and would vote and support you for, all of these douchebags get mad that she's saying something different from them and trying to be forceful with it. Just like I was really pissed off with her and a lot of these other progressives because they voted for Pelosi, and she's been crappy just her entire career. But to her credit, Pelosi's credit, even though I just can't stand her, she was able to get Democrats and some regular people to start backing her because they thought she was going at Trump over the shutdown. But that kind of maneuvering is not something that you see from most of these Democrats. And what's really funny is that these people try to tell you about the need for unity again as they're trying to get someone to primary you. And the coward who was saying it wouldn't even tell you who he was because he was so scared. He was shaking in his boots. Oh, please, I don't want to be known and get confronted by all of her supporters and have no one backing me because I'm lame and don't have any positions anybody supports. Thank Marcus. I used to try to, I would be friendly and try to let them see the fault in their thinking. Yeah, I just think talking to most of those people is a waste of time because, if it's somewhere like YouTube where you do a stream, which is why I abandoned streams for several months or a while ago last year, you have these people who, while you're speaking or while you're just reading something or talking about whatever, will come in there, gas you up with some paragraph or sentence, and then like disappear. I've had that happen like at least three times in the last 2 weeks, or rather 3 weeks. So just more recurringly now, where if you talk about some hot button issue, they want you to hear what they have to say, but for whatever reason they can't make their own video about the same topic or actually engage you back and forth, and just nothing. Like we were talking about regime change of Venezuela and how Pelosi was supporting that, or rather was kind of like trying to pretend, how the U.S. politicians do. Oh, we're big proponents of human rights while we bomb innocent civilians in Yemen for money from Saudi Arabia and help create the worst humanitarian crisis in modern history. But these are the kind of talking points that they have, of just saying they're for human rights while having a record that is completely the opposite. So while she was supporting that conflict, I, the person who came in here and was like, "Oh man, Maduro is so bad." Where? And then I went and pulled over I reminded the persons in there, or rather, I was reminded of when I was talking about the North Korea saga when that was going on for Trump's first year, and there was a person who said Kim Jong-un must be stopped. Was talking about how dangerous he was. My comment section. And obviously, you saw Trump meet with him, and that turned to nothing. Then, when Trump pulled out of the Iran deal, there was someone that came in there and said Iran was dangerous, must be stopped. Same story, same, just different country, but it's the same theme of this person's bad. We need to do something to them. Blah 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 blah. Every year, and it's going to be the same way with how Congress goes, where Ocasio-Cortez and all these other Justice Democrats are going to keep trying to tell you things are changing or otherwise are getting better because they're there. And then you're going to have to put up with all of these establishment shills, including the one that was so cowardly as to not say who they were in that article, purposely trying to sabotage them. Pelosi is not going to bring up single payer for a vote because she knows it will expose what members of the caucus, including herself, are opposed to it and who isn't. So she can just keep kind of pretending to be in the middle until, I guess, eventually retiring when it's no longer a political inconvenience for her. But it's all fake. This idea that they like her is fake. This idea that these are her friends are fake. I mean, it's when you are someone who bucks your own party, you even if you get more popular with regular people, that oftentimes spells out consequence when you get on Capitol Hill, because you have to deal with members of your own party at your throat, and obviously the other one being opposed to you as well. So there's really not that many friends to kind of go and interact with as far and actually try to see if you can get something done. So that's why when we had multiple Justice Democrats get elected, I thought maybe that group can kind of stick together and hold firm on certain. Nope, it just won't do it. So it's sad, but we just have to kind of keep pushing and remember that we're playing with two sides of the same coin here. Sure, they can talk differently about social issues, but both the Democrats and Republicans are trying to keep all the wars going. They're trying to still play this stupid game of letting these insurance companies and these other the pharmaceutical industry mess with the prices of drugs and prescriptions and healthcare. It's all designed to screw over the regular people. And if you're someone like AOC who's fighting against that, you're going to get demonized by everybody. So it is a lose-lose situation, but it is a step in the right direction to have someone who is despised by both sides, supported by regular people in a position of power.